All right, everybody. We are live with Frightmare HQ. My name is Loyd Cryer, and I'm here today with
It's Charles Doze.
In the
I'm
Flesh.
here with Loyd
In the
in
Flesh. We're here
person.
together. What do you think of that?
It's awesome. I've been stalking Loyd. I've been sleeping outside his house. He finally let me in, so here I am.
Here he is, and over to your on the upper left hand of your screen is the amazing CJ Graham. Hello, CJ.
What's up, CJ?
Hey, Loyd, Charles, how you guys doing today?
We're doing good. How have you been?
Great. Just trying to stay healthy like everybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got there behind you? That's a cool poster. Or what is it? A print or what is it?
It's actually a banner. It just happens to be the scene where I'm underwater, 20 feet deep under a swimming pool in Los Angeles doing the water scenes.
That's an iconic shot,
That is.
CG.
Yeah, that's one of the favorite pictures when we're doing the convention that people buy. This one and the one with the arm, holding the arm up, seems to be the two favorite of the fans.
Oh yeah, where you rip the guy's arm off.
Right.
And you did those water scenes yourself, correct?
Yes, Charles. About a year ago, I did a panel with a good friend, Kane Hodder, and Tom and Steve Dash. And believe it or not, they found out at that point I'd never done a stunt in my life until Friday the 13th, and I did all my own stunts. And they kind of shook their head, and Kane just looked at me and thought I was out of my mind. But that was just part of the deal. If you're going to do it and step into the role, then you've got to perform your own stunts.
Right. So how did you get involved with this? Was your first acting role, right?
Yes. I always tell a lot of fans, and I appreciate the question, Loyd, because it's interesting for the folks out there to hear that sometimes there's just luck involved in success. And there's talent and things. Like I said, I had to do all my own stunts and to be able to step into a role and create this image without speaking, without facial expressions, without giving a peace sign and meaning peaceful signs. It's a lot different. I was at a nightclub. I was a general manager of a nice club, 1,800 people on the weekends, 15,000 square feet. I had a hypnotist on Thursday nights, and the hypnotist decided to have a crew come in and film his show. It just happens that the crew that came in was Real Effects, REEL, Real Effects, who happened to do all the special effects on part 4 with Ted White. So they told the hypnotist, let's do a Jason scene. We've got the wardrobe. CJ is about the same size as Ted. And when I say this, the rest is history. We're talking about this over 3 decades later.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
And you just kind of that just kind of happened. I hate to say you lucked into it because it's not always about luck, but you were in the right place at the right time.
Yes, and I mean that sincerely, and that's why it's a good story for people out there that are facing some challenges now and then. I wasn't expecting, I wasn't anticipating, I had no interest in Screen Actors Guild or any of that scene when I was in the LA market. It just fell upon me. I got an opportunity and I grasped it, and I was fortunate enough to be in an iconic role that we're talking about 3 decades later.
That's so crazy. And like, how did that come back around to you? Like, how did they know? Let's contact CJ. He can do this. How did that get back to you?
Well, I originally had went down and done the interview through Frank Mancuso Jr. at Paramount Studios, and of course Tom McLaughlin, the writer-director, and we got down to 2 people, myself and another stuntman who was a stuntman. They elected to go with the stuntman, which I understand business-wise. It was no experience on my part. Unfortunately, the first daily that came back, which happens to be the one scene that's still in the film, which is the paintball scene, the image or the performance that they were looking for didn't come across the screen. So even though I was said no to a couple of weeks before that, I get a call on Friday, and Monday morning I was in Covington, Georgia, suiting up and going to work.
Wow.
That's so crazy. That's a great story, though. I mean, it's great to hear that you started off and you happened to do this scene in a nightclub, and then boom, like you said.
Yeah.
It's a good story for everybody.
Do you have any inside info on that new box set that's coming out? Do you know? Because I know they've released a list of everything that all the special features, but what can you tell us that you know about part 6?
Well, unfortunately, if you go back to part 6 and 7 and before, things weren't done digitally back then. They were still VHS tape. And unfortunately, those days, things were cut, sliced, put together, put on the floor, and swept into the garbage.
Right.
So there isn't an opportunity to come back and do a director's cut. Part 6 had a lot of great scenes were edited out as a result of what would be considered an X-rated movie in those days, and today would just be an R-rated movie or R-17. And unfortunately, those deleted scenes are in the garbage and gone forever. There's no digital, no nothing that can be helped. There's a script and things that were done. I remember taking Horseshack, pulling his heart out, and having it beat in my hand with the blood coming out. And of course, they edited it out to a very generic scene of the heart. But it was a really good, it showed the hand going into the chest, the stretching of the skin, pulling it out. It was really cool. And then there were some other scenes twisting the head out were a little more gory than what would be acceptable today. So it's unfortunate, but at the time it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course, back then, you wanted to get the film in a theater and you wanted people to see it, and you couldn't, back then they were super cut happy.
I don't think there was as much focus on like director's cuts back then too, so people would just toss things,
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it was, because I know Tom McLaughlin talks about it. Some of the scenes he wished he could have kept or would have kept that could have been put into a director's cut for a re-release. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the box set, the addition they're able to add. When they started getting up into where Kane Hodder picked up the role, and then through Derek Mears, everything went digital. So they still have all that accessibility to slice and put it together for some, director's edits.
Yeah. Well, you bring up Horseshack. I got to talk to you about Ron Palillo. I grew up on that show. And I don't even know if a lot of our viewers even know what Welcome Back, Kotter is. Recently I don't know if you've seen it, but I think it was Applebee's, the commercial that's out, plays the Welcome Back, Kotter song. And my son was like, he said he made it. He commented on it, and I said, "Well, that was the theme song to an old sitcom." He was like, "What?" And I had to pull it up on YouTube and show him, and he had no idea what Welcome Back, Kotter was. How much interaction did you have with Ron?
Actually, we all had interaction for our scenes for the most part. I stayed a little more aloof to everybody because I was quote unquote not, Part 6, in my opinion, is where Jason becomes the principal of the film. Prior to that, he was a horror figure, but we were all looking for the actors and actresses engaged in what was going to go on. If you go to part 6, all of a sudden Jason becomes in the scene where every time you're waiting to see what Jason's next move is. And then as part 7 and continued, it's always about Jason, if you think about it now. How is he going to kill somebody? What's next? But in those days, we had different interaction. We were shooting all night, staying in a small hotel in Covington, Georgia. So everybody saw each other and talked. I stayed a little bit away from everybody for 2 reasons. Number one, to keep it a little more mysterious when I stepped on the set. Secondarily, I wasn't really experienced and part of the network, so to speak. I felt a little different because I didn't have the experience that the folks I was working with did. And now that I've talked to them and met them over the last 30 years, and you take a look at some of these actors and actresses that I had to interact with in part 6, these are amazing folks as far as their acting ability, their screen ability, stage ability. They really are some fantastic people.
Yeah. So, you interacted with him in scenes. Did you fanboy out a little bit? Because you obviously you were familiar with Welcome Back, Kotter.
I'm not a real highly emotional person. So for me, it's like, and I've been blessed I was a chief operating officer, general manager of 2 casinos, and I've run casinos for 20 years. So I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people, from Steven Tyler to Sting to CCR. And, because I hired them to perform in our auditoriums, our concert venues. So I get to meet with them, do photos, have them sign guitars for me because I collect guitars. But it didn't really dawn on me. I've always been very respectful of who they are and given them that, hey, love your work, congratulations. I don't want to be in their face because, when you're on scene, like talking right now, and you're talking to your fans at like the Texas Frightmare, they're asking you the question for the very first time. And it's important that you answer that question in fullest, because even though you may have answered it 2,000 times before, for that fan, it's the first time they've asked the question. So you want to give them respect and the time. They've paid a lot of money to come to Texas Frightmare and sit down with us and meet us. So it's very important we give them some one-on-one and really interact. I felt the same way back then before I had the luck I have today of being Jason Voorhees. I still gave everybody the respect. The same thing when I ran casinos, even though I was a general manager and I was writing the checks for the bands. I still wanted them to know I knew they were working. They're doing their photo ops. They got to go to work. They got to get on stage. The one that I was most impressed with in my career, though, I got a chance to meet Alan Jackson. And he's very quiet. He doesn't do meet and greets. But my mother was about 84 years old. It was her birthday. He allowed my mother to come into his motor home and meet him, take photos, and I got to go in with him and have him sign a guitar. He's a classy man, so that was fun.
So you did fanboy a little bit with Alan Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the man is 6'4", 6'5" with his cowboy boots, and I'm 6'3" or 4". So I was actually standing next to him, and he was taller than me.
Wow,
that's crazy.
That's really cool. So from there, from Jason, Friday the 13th Part 6, how did you proceed? Did you just start getting offers, or
was it not for you anymore? What was it?
You know, it's interesting because when I came back, I went to work for Jackie Collins. You may remember Joan Collins, Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
Her
Sure.
sister, Jackie, author. I was the general manager of a private nightclub in the Beverly Center in Beverly Hills for her. When I say private, members like Table 5 would be Sylvester Stallone. Table 43 in the nightclub was Prince. Tom Jones would be at the bar. Private. And one of the managers that came in said, well, you did this. You have a Screen Actors Guild card. What are you going to do with it? And it didn't really dawn on me. He actually turned me on to commercials with Cunningham and actually started getting me out for calls for different things. I was very fortunate to do 5 or 6 national commercials from AT&T to Colgate to Gatorade, and then turned that into secondarily where I did the Highway to Hell for Hemdale. Unfortunately, Hemdale bankruptcy prior to the distribution. So it kind of sat on the shelves for MGM United Artists until recently it's been distributed. And then, of course, and the same story, I was up for the Part 7. Kane has said this before. And, John was doing the directing, and Kane is a huge horror fan. And kudos to Kane. He had to talk to John. John said yes. But John had to go to Paramount Studios, the switch before we started shooting. And once Kane picked up Part 7, he's been the ambassador, through the 4 that he did. And to this day, he's still the strongest ambassador for Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. You guys, all of you kind of have a friendly kind of a poke at each other kind of a relationship that we've always seen at the conventions.
We always love it.
Yeah.
Well, I do. Well, me and Kane mostly because I've known Kane a lot of years. And I do, my respect for him goes beyond just on the screen. So with him being, like I indicated, just a great ambassador and all the hard work he's done over the last 3 decades for that, what he is today, he's helped facilitate where we're at today with conventions and people wanting to meet the Jason Voorhees or the Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger, or Leatherface. But I do mess with Kane a lot because I can, and he knows I care about him, so it doesn't take it personal. But we'll do a convention. If him and I are at the same convention, there's always going to be fireworks because, he'll come down a little late, and I'll run over to his line and apologize that he's got constipation. He can't make it down for a little while. And I'll say it out loud. And
CJ, you kind of froze up on us a little bit there. That's what I think. Kane Hodder is messing around with.
Kane
this
Hodder
stream.
is messing around with this.
Yeah, he froze you right up.
So
Uh-oh. Maybe.
Yeah, and then he pokes me back. He always calls me BJ. I scream BJ from across the convention.
BJ, that's terrible.
I honestly, I just spoke to Kane 2 days ago. True story.
Yeah. Kane's a great guy. He's done, our show multiple times, and we've had him on the live stream here, and he's an icon. Do you have a favorite Jason?
Are there others?
You're the only one.
The only one.
I'm the only one.
That's
Now,
great.
if honestly, how would you expect me to answer that other than, is there others? I
Is
mean,
there others?
Yeah. So when you did 6, though, so you did your own stunts. You've never done stunts before. Was there any point when you were doing stunts you were like, what the hell did I get myself into?
unfortunately, when you're 27, 28, you're pretty cocky. And you don't think about really, because at that point, I'd spent some time in the military. I was in the infantry and had some different assignments in the military. So I was a little confident, maybe overconfident. It didn't dawn on me at the time. My biggest fear was letting them down or accidentally hurting an actor, an actress, because those actors and actresses allowed me to physically grab their head and throw it into a camera, take a real knife and plunge it towards her head and stop, and then they do the reverse. Those weren't, fake. They'd have me go through a wall and go through a door, and the object was to get through it and get that first step down so you wouldn't fall. Because if you fall, two things: you might bust your leg, your ankle, your knee. But we got to reshoot the scene. That costs money.
Yeah.
So, and underwater, for some reason, I was very relaxed. I was 20 feet underwater. That's a real chain. I was standing on a center block, and I would signal for air, and the safety divers would just swim in, lift my mask, and stick a regulator in my mouth. We shot at night. We dropped a black tarp all the way around the diving pool, so I couldn't see anything, but I could hear the camera running. So I heard the camera. That was the indication to start. And then I would do what I could as long as I could until I couldn't do it anymore, and then they'd give me air.
Wow. That's pretty scary.
Did you have to get any sort of training from previous stunt people, or did you just wing it?
I winged it. I had a stunt coordinator, Michael Nomad, and like when they set me on fire, the half burn I did, he would tell me how I'm going to feel and at what point I was really burning, because it's a unique feeling at that point. And you've got a race car driver type of suit underneath your wardrobe, which is what drivers used to wear in those days. But Michael Nomad would just tell me, when we did the shotgun jerk back, he'd put that cable on me and he'd start with so many PSIs and get up to a point where it would just make me airborne. So I was really confident when I had Michael around me, because he kind of gave me the genetics of it, but at the same time, it was my first time doing it no matter what.
Yeah. I got a couple of questions coming in. Do you mind answering a question or two?
Sure, I'd love to.
Travis Brown wants to know, what was it like to work with Tom Matthews and Ron Palillo? We kind of talked about that a little bit, but...
Well, Mr. Brown, I'll tell you two things. Number one, Tom Matthews, again, just had communication with Tommy about a week ago. Him and his family are doing good. They're down in the Southern California. And the same thing, both on the same sides. I didn't have a lot of interaction on set except for the scenes as much as now, years later. Unfortunately, we've lost one person, but Tom Matthews, I will be seeing Tom Matthews in a couple of weeks, and I see Tom Matthews probably once a year at an event. Same thing with Tom McLaughlin, the writer-director. And I see Darcy out there once in a while. So it's kind of exciting to get to see him. And his career has just been phenomenal. If you take a look at his rap sheet, I call it, just like Kane Hodder, they've done so many films and so many opportunities that, he's a very, very humble man.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, as horror fans, we're all big fans of Return of the Living Dead, so it was kind of a treat to see him pop up in Friday the 13th, Part 6. So I always love seeing Tom Matthews in anything.
Yeah.
If you guys have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and ask here in the comments. The next one that we've got is John Pertwee says, what's been your favorite convention story? And who have you met that's been the most devoted Jason fan?
Good question.
Well, John, believe it or not, the most devoted Jason fan that I've had the pleasure of meeting is actually a Hall of Fame rock and roller, Alice Cooper.
Is that right?
That is, and he is so proud of his work with the Jason Voorhees, Man Behind the Mask, Part 6. And I had the pleasure of doing a convention with him multiple times, had him sit next to me multiple times, and he's got some great, remembrance of the movie itself. And then we've also had an opportunity to put wardrobe on, myself, put the Jason wardrobe and do pictures with our fans, with Alice Cooper, our fans in the middle, and Jason Voorhees Part 6. But he is, again, just a phenomenal rock and roll Hall of Famer. Who knew, in 1986, number one, that you get the opportunity to play Jason? Great. But I always tell people this, and Loyd, Charles, you'll like this, and I'm sure John will, is that I get to be the only Jason that has a James Bond opening. Pretty cool.
That's right. That's right.
I'm the only Jason that comes back to life like Frankenstein. Double cool. I'm the only Jason that has a rock and roll Hall of Famer who does the music, Alice Cooper. Now we're into triple. But the home run is I'm the only Jason that gets to wear a Batman utility belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got your utility belt.
Exactly.
It's like Jason the superhero.
Mike, to answer your question again, Loyd, are there others?
There you go. That's what a lot of people talk about, though, is that how Jason, like you said, he became more of a central character in the movie, but it was also the first time that he became something supernatural. We saw Jason come back to life a couple of times, but those could have just been flesh wounds or whatever. This time, he was resurrected. He is kind of a supernatural character now.
He's got a Batman belt, so he's a
and he's got a Batman belt.
and Tom McLaughlin, the writer-director, as I, are big Universal horror fans, and he kind of bestowed upon that. He was looking for that character not to be a mummy, not to be robotic, but of curiosity, where as Tom kind of explained it to me back then, and I'll paraphrase it now, it was kind of connecting the brain dots, the cells, because of electricity, similar to Frankenstein back in the 60s. There's a scene where Frankenstein is next to the water, and there's a little girl, and she hands him a flower. And there's a curiosity factor, you can tell, but there's no expression, just you can tell that he's thinking. And that's the connecting of the dots that I say Part 6 is where he comes back to life like Frankenstein. And it's not a zombie. You're not Dawn of the Dead. You actually are connecting some brain cells as you're going through a process.
Yeah, yeah. Did you, I know that Corey Feldman did some scenes at the beginning. Were you on set together with Feldman at all?
No, never. I did a film earlier this year before everything shut down. Deborah Voorhees, 13 Fanboy.
Yes.
And we will be in that one, and Dee Wallace and Kane Hodder and a few of us have participated in that. So that was the first time I ever got to really interact at all.
Nice.
Gotcha. So tell us about, you've got Vengeance.
Yeah.
We want to know about Vengeance.
About a year ago, I had the opportunity, Steve Dash and myself, to participate in a fan film that was a Vengeance, and what it really was a spin-off of what they really wanted to do after Part 6, which was to introduce Jason Voorhees' father, Elias. So,
yes.
Steve did it as a gig. He's the sheriff, and, they asked him about Jason. He goes, I'm Jason. I'm the only Jason. The real Jason, quote unquote, is what he put into the script. And then myself, I grew a beard for about 4 or 5 months.
Uh-oh, he's frozen again. We need to get out the light.
So I look like a back horseman. And the gentleman who played Jason, Mr. Brooks, he is the same size as me physically. So it's an eye-to-eye.
Uh-oh.
It's Kane Hodder.
It's Kane again. Kane's screwing with it. We'll kind of wait for CJ to come back.
We had a good time, and that's a good showing. What's that?
You were freezing up a little bit.
We thought it was Kane Hodder.
We thought Kane Hodder was getting in and trying to screw up your interview.
He probably was. Damn it. They have asked me if I would participate in Vengeance 2, which I think they want to call it Bloodline. And I told them, let's take a look at it in 2021 and look at options.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
I think all of us are waiting for 2021 at this point.
At this point, we'd love for 2020 to be over. How have you been hanging in there during the pandemic?
You know what? We've been really conscientious. I have a ranch. I mean, at the time when it started, I had a ranch in Arizona with horses. So we were 15 miles out of town, and we were, enjoying just the ranch life. And then about 2 months ago, I decided to buy a place in Montana. So I've just relocated to Montana. Same thing. I've got the horses and a nice little spread. So we don't really, at 63, when I turned 63 years ago, I retired from the casino industry. I hung up all my suit and ties. I actually gave them all away to the Goodwill except for two. One is black for funerals and a blue one for weddings.
He's done.
But I took all, a couple dozen of them to the Goodwill. So, for us, we just do what we're supposed to do. I wear a mask when I go out. I've done an event this year where about 2 months ago, everybody wore a mask. Everybody was very, very conscientious. They were checking temperatures at the door. They kept their 6 feet. There was a 3-foot table between myself and the guest. Everybody cleaned their hands. So I was very impressed that there is a way to do it. It's a little more challenging, but we can do it. And until we get to that vaccine point, we're going to have to do it. It is what it is. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Do you miss the interaction with the fans, though, having to be so far away from them? Do you miss that personal interaction?
Yeah, because we still could take photos together, but we have masks on. You don't get to shake hands. Maybe a fist bump is pretty much. But I think the more important thing is for the fans that they really get to meet you and talk to you. I think the fans, number one, I know for a fact, are what made the Jason Voorhees iconic. I always say the same thing, and I say this to the fans out there that, it's interesting because I can go to India, and they've got about 1.4 billion people, give or take. And you show them a picture of Tom Cruise, they all know who it is. You show them a picture of C.J. Graham, they look at you like. However, you turn the picture around to the Jason hockey match, they all say Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th. But, it's just worldwide known. So I'm very humble. But I also get to fly under the radar a lot of times because they don't know. But it is shocking. I've been through TSA and had a TSA agent go, C.J. Graham, did you play Jason? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, man, come up here. And I'm going, well, do you know Derek Mears? Yeah. I go, see that guy back there? Derek, come up to the front line. Come here. They know awesome. Who they are. And it's a very humble feeling, an appreciative feeling for the fans.
Well, I've always said this, but, nowadays we have the modern horror monsters. Back in the day we had the Mummy, Dracula, Frankenstein. But now we have Freddy and Jason and Chucky and Leatherface. I mean, you guys are the classic horror monsters of our generation.
It's true.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate to be part of that genre. I'm hoping that it carries. Again, here we are 30 years later, and there's some great films out there right now that we're watching, and we'll see in 30 years if they're still tick-tocking at the top. We've been fortunate with Friday the 13th, the Leatherface, and Michael Myers, and of course Robert Englund with how he portrayed his part as far as being Freddy. It's kind of nice to be part of the four. It's the Four Musketeers, I always say. And if you do go back to what you said, you had the Mummy, you had Dracula, you had Frankenstein, and the werewolf back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, exactly. But it's enduring. Those characters have endured and only gotten, more endearing to us all. And I think that's what's going to happen with the modern horror classics as well.
Yeah, very true.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, and it's an opinion, it's like a butt. Everybody has an opinion. But I always say that, the nice thing about these four films we're discussing is there's not a lot of computer work on them. They are a physical structure in front of a camera doing a stunt. I mean, I love certain films, and I won't say, but how many times do you jump from a car to a plane to a street to another car and then stand up straight and pick up a gun and start shooting? That's not Jason. That's not Leatherface. That's not Freddy Krueger. These are people you actually could open up your door and they'd be standing there in the real life, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's something that's realistic rather than generated by a computer.
Right.
That's true, and I think a lot of that's been a loss in this generation is that practicalness of how horror used to be. People are so used to, like you said, computer imagery, and they kind of don't understand where it came from. In a sense.
Right. Well, I believe, Loyd, you would say, Charles, when we do the convention, it's no different. We see people 7, 8 years old in full wardrobe, Jason, and they know everything about the movie. And I'm thinking, okay, you watched that? And then you have people that a father comes dressed up and a grandfather, and I have 3 people in front of me that are all part of the wardrobe, and they're 3 different generations. And for me, it's just a pleasure and an honor that they're standing in front of me and talking about Jason.
Yeah, that's got to be thrilling for you.
Yeah. It's nice
It
to see
is.
that past.
It's one of those things you just kind of go, wow, and you don't take it lightly, very seriously about it. That's why I say, without the fans, we wouldn't be here. But also, Loyd, Charles, without Texas Frightmare and the great convention, we wouldn't be here either, because you helped us continue all the films that we're talking about, and we can go through Jaws and every single one of them that's portrayed at your convention, and just the camaraderie between the different artists, the vendors, and everything that we do. So it's really a humble feeling to be part of this structure.
Well, that's the thing that pleases me most, during a show is just watching everybody, like you say, just enjoy and come together over their fandom for, something that they all love. I want to remind everybody that you can ask CJ questions here. If you've got any questions, please let us know. The next one we got is from David Dugas. He says, CJ, what is your favorite scene to shoot, or what was your favorite scene to shoot in part 6?
David, my most favorite scene was when I was set on fire. I'd never done a fire burn, partial fire burn. I'd never had my back and my arms set on fire. The thing that was cool about me is I stepped back into the flame and lit myself on fire. Nobody actually torched me. They gelled me, and then I would step into the flame, light myself, step forward into the frame and start the fight. It was kind of interesting to see flame coming over the front of the mask. And you're thinking, am I really doing this? And how much am I getting paid to do this? And I will tell you, the next day when I got my stunt bump, it's called, I was right down to the bank cashing it.
I bet. So you, when you talk about that, it reminds me, we spoke to Kane, and Kane was talking about how he really enjoys the fire stunts because he said it's very calming when you're doing a fire scene. He says it's oddly calming.
Well, I think and this is my interpretation, is you have no control at that point. Now, my fortunate of doing my fire stunts is I had the decision, if I wanted to put myself out, all I had to do was go into the water. I wasn't relying on ground to hit the ground and have somebody put me out. So for me, it was probably just more of a, wow, this is crazy. Kane has been doing this a long time. His resume is, 2 arms long. And he's done a lot of, fire burns, and he's unfortunately had a bad one, decades ago that hurt him. But, he is a pro at what he's done. He's been doing these stunts and fire burns for decades. So for him, he probably sees it through a different lens than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta go back a little bit and talk about Highway to Hell. Hell Cop.
You know what? It was an interesting opportunity to do that. Again, I was second choice, to be fair. They never shot with the other person, but the other person, and I do not recall his name, but he didn't realize his face was going to be all covered with prosthetics. So what he did was, once he figured that out, he thought at one point he would be able to be seen in the film. It wasn't the case. He bowed out of it. So I worked with Steve Johnson, special effects guru.
Yeah.
And when I went down there, it really came down to my facial structure to fit the prosthetics they'd already spent about $100,000 on. And it just happened. My face was a little more oval, and they were able to glue me up pretty good. So, and again, the rest is history. But I got a chance to work with Steve Johnson in that one, who's really got an outstanding resume historically over the last 3 decades also when it comes to films.
Oh, yeah. We talked to Steve, what was it, a month or 2 ago, about his new book that's coming out. He's amazing to talk to.
Yeah, and again, here we are looking at these folks with these resumes that are arms and arms of stuff that they've done. So for me, it's just an honor to still be connected in one form or another with them.
Yeah. What a cast, too, in this movie, though. Ben Stiller, Jerry Stiller,
Lita
Ford, Gilbert Godfrey,
Christy Swanson.
Christy
You know what?
Swanson.
I just had a film company about 6 months ago come over from Germany to interview me about Highway to Hell. They're getting ready to release it in Germany with German subtitles, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it's interesting because if you ever watch the film, it really has merit to be an iconic film. Unfortunately, with Hemdale bankruptcy, it never got the full distribution. I still have 13 or 14 of the original posters that were going to be distributed to the film through the theaters in a box.
Wow.
That was still made back in 1991. But yeah, if you look at it, you've got Ben Stiller. He's in it for like 8 seconds. And what's he make now? 20 million a film?
Yeah.
His mom and dad are in it. His sister's in it also, just so you know.
Yeah.
And then look at Christy Swanson, Buffy and the Vampire. Patrick Virgin is his name. He was in with Julia Roberts, Sleeping with the Enemy. He was the husband. Yep. And then, of course, rock and roller Lita Ford. So there are some iconic images. There's a scene, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. I think it's Kevin, but don't hold me to that fact, of a gentleman whose eyes are all sewn together. He was the original Predator.
Wow. Is that right?
He's passed away since then, but I thought his name was Kevin, but if you looked it up, he was the original Predator all the way back to the first one.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, this movie was, you're right, it should be more of a culty, kind of iconic film, but I guess it was just the way it was originally launched. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Well, it never got launched. It was ready for a distribution to the theaters, and for whatever reason, Hemdale Films bankruptcy, and it sat dormant and never got to the theaters. It sat dormant on the shelves until just a few years ago when United Artists MGM Grand bought the library. Inside the library was this movie that had never been distributed. So it's kind of an interesting, how it does happen. And you know what? You look at some films that make it, and in this case, Hemdale Films bankrupted and never got out. It sat dormant for 30 years.
Yeah, it's sad that it happens sometimes. Some of those movies just get lost, and it's unfortunate for the amount of work you have to put into that, and then nobody really gets to see it for a long time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, it's interesting, and I'll be at the table, and I've got a couple pictures of Hell Cop, and people are shocked. Oh, you were Hell Cop? And they like that photo. They'll buy that photo of Hell Cop because it's such an iconic image. And if you talk to Steve Johnson, that was in his earlier part of his career. He really meticulously put that wardrobe and designed it together. There were 5 or 6 pieces glued onto my face so that I could move my eyebrows, my lips, and my eyes in full cosmetic. I'd have to sit there at lunch and drink with a straw because my lips were all glued on. And if I get oil or anything on them, they'd start to release. And I had a scene to do right after lunch. So I'd get a milkshake for lunch.
Oh, yeah.
So, CJ, if they wanted to, would you go back and play Jason? Because you're still in amazing shape. Look at you.
Yeah, let's see those guns.
Look at those
Jason.
guns.
Show us. Whoa, my God.
That's his Jason.
Here's my philosophy on that. And it's kind of a twofold. I'd like to at least know the script. I mean, with all due respect, I don't want to go to space.
You don't want to go to space. How about to Mars?
Yeah, no. I would, as long as I could give you, the fans, the performance equal or better than I did in part 6, I would consider options. But I want to make sure that I also want it to be a sequel of respect, because I just don't want to do it and they go, oh, that was a flop. I'd like to be able to come back and do something that's still got some punt to it. Tom McLaughlin, about a year ago, went on a podcast and mentioned that he's written a new script and he's ready to sit down and be with Mr. Miller and Mr. Cunningham if they'd like to entertain it. And he had mentioned that he'd like to see if he could resurrect me because he's seen me in the wardrobe with Alice Cooper and with Tom. And structurally, I'm 244, 245. In the film, I was 240. So I'm still about the same. I got the same movement. Now, to be fair, physicality, I don't see myself going through doors and walls. Okay, I don't know. I might have to tape my ankles maybe or my knees because I will feel it the next day. I know that for sure.
Yeah. Well, that brings another question. Todd Lewis wanted to know, do you enjoy getting back into costume for the in-costume Jason photo ops at conventions?
Yeah, Todd, I do, as a matter of fact, because I had about 5 or 6 different people help me design the costume and the prosthetics, and they're 95% spot on. So the nice thing about it is when I put it on, character comes back easily. When you put that mask on and you just become a physical structure, it's kind of interesting. You know, people come around the corner to take that photo. And, you know, Loyd, you'll appreciate this because I've worked for you doing this. When they come around that curtain and they see you standing there with that machete, you can just see their eyes. It's like, okay, it just got real.
Yeah.
Because the wardrobe was spot on. I mean, when I did the film, fortunately, I paid attention. Secondarily, everything they picked was Vietnam era. Well, remember, I was in the military then. The OD green uniform, that's a Vietnam era shirt. The pants are khaki pants. The boots are combat boots. The machete's an 18-inch machete from Vietnam. And the holder for the darts is a 30 caliber holder from World War II. The gloves are just gloves, and the prosthetics and the mask, you have the right person put those together. And I had the prosthetics made by a gentleman out of Canada, and spent quite a bit of money for it. And it's, you know, it's spot on when you put everything on and you stand there. People just drop their jaw, and it really does get real for them. They're just shocked of the side-by-side portrait of how I look behind me and how I look today when I'm standing next to them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's spot on.
It is spot on.
And that year that we did those ops and everybody was in costume, we had, Ted White and
Yes.
Kane and just everybody. I saw the photos of that, and I was there in person, and it was amazing. Some of the photos look like high-quality action figures, like full-size action figures. They're just so spot on.
The poses and everything were, yeah, like you said, spot on.
Yeah.
And you know, Kane, when he does his, he's had his put together professionally too, so he looks there. Ken is really, I mean, Ken, I had no idea. Number one, I always knew Ken was 6'6". I knew he was a big man, but I didn't know he was 6'8" when he did the movie, because they put 2-inch platforms on him to make him that much bigger than Robert. And I didn't learn that until we did your event a couple of years ago, and we were all in wardrobe, and I was like, damn, you're big. You know, I mean, he was like 4 inches above me. I'm like, I'm looking up going, damn. And then I looked down, he told me, well, I went from 6'6" to 6'8" for the film. And I thought that was like, wow. I mean, no matter he was so massive in some of his films and some of those photos looking up at him.
Yeah.
That's great.
Got another question here from Mirthquake Tunes. He says he's intrigued by your time as a casino manager. And he basically wants to know, was there any schooling or education or a guild or a degree? And does your experience on the management side color your experience on the guest side?
You know, yes, in several ways. I am, just like when I did the film, I'm self-taught. I have a high school diploma to answer his question. I do not have a college degree. But I'm smart enough to know what I'm not smart in. So I do make sure I surround myself with smart people. I have a PhD in common sense. I do have a 4-year military degree and honorable discharge, which I apply to my integrity and the honor that I try to instill how I do myself in process. I think, but to answer, I went to dealing school to learn how to deal blackjack. It cost me $200. Then I went to school to learn how to deal roulette and then craps. Once you get all the main games under your belt, I became a supervisor, a pit boss, a casino manager, a director, vice president, general manager. And I grew myself through the ranks, working with the hotel, understanding food and beverage, running the nightclub, food and beverage. And then I applied it to, like I said, my common sense of this makes sense. But there's always, it's black, it's white, but I always say, find me a rainbow, find me the color in between, because I got to find a commonality between what we can do and what we can't do and try to suffice and make everybody satisfied. So I was very fortunate as a general manager. I ran a $1 billion casino resort in Northern California. I ran 2 casino resorts in Southern California. I was a executive for George Maloof at the Palms. I was an executive for Steve Wynn at Wynn. And then I worked for, of course, Caesars, and I ran the casino at the Flamingo, just to go back some history. It gives you a little idea about my experience and how I grew into that executive positions. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being a problem solver within the industry. I have about 2,500 employees, about $100 million payroll, health benefit package. So it came with a little bit of stress because I'm a perfectionist, but at the same time, I felt good when I went home and I had completed something that was positive for my team.
Yeah. Are you still in touch with the friends in that industry?
Yes, I still have quite a few friends in the industry. All of us are getting around my age now where they're starting to, go and said, okay, I got it. I'm going to rip and step back. But the two casinos I had in Southern California, the chief operating officer, Sal, a good friend of mine, and then the general managers of three different of the largest casinos in California are people that I had the pleasure of working with and promoted them to senior vice president, general managers working under me. And all three of those, two of them are ladies. One's at Cache Creek, one's at Thunder Valley. She's doing a great job. And then Cato is down in Palm Springs. Those are folks that all have degrees, be it MBA in finance, marketing, or English. And they all had great around me, but they were very valuable to me because I understood what they were thinking, but I looked at things through a different lens than they did. But we worked well together, making sure that we found success in our platforms that we built.
Did it make it hard when you were having to run, all of this outside work? Did it make it difficult to actually do conventions from time to time?
It did. I only did a few, just so you know. Let me make sure that goes off. There you go. I only did a few until about 3 years ago. 3.5 years ago, I retired, and now I'm just open ended if I want to do it. I don't want to. I try not to make a rotation every year because I don't want to wear my welcome out with you guys, with anybody else, the fans. But when I was running casinos, it was very difficult. I'd try to get 2 or 3 a year if I was lucky. It's kind of hard to be at a convention on Saturday night and I get a phone call that such and such is beating us for $500,000 and this person wants another $250,000 credit line. This guy wants $1 million. When you're sitting in a hotel room and some of those rooms can be a little loud. So I really played my obligation to George Maloof or to, the casinos in California was more of a higher precedence than doing the conventions. Now that I'm able to step away, I'm able to meet my fan base and be a little more accessible.
Right.
Very nice.
That's great. We've got David Dugas just wanted to say he wanted to thank you for your military services, by the way.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
And Charles Anderson said that the Kevin you were talking about is Kevin Peter Hall. He was Harry in Harry and the Hendersons also.
Yes, his Kevin. So I was right about the Kevin. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I forgot about the Harry and the Hendersons. You're right.
Yep. And that was I don't know, I loved that movie when I was younger. It was awesome.
I think it's still an awesome movie.
Yeah. So is there anything on the horizon that you want to talk about? Anything that any website that you want to point people to, or?
Well, I have a website that's jason6.com. So right now we're kind of on unusual times. We're not able to reach out and do meet and greets and things. So a lot of fans are just going through there and picking photos, and I autograph them, send them back, and I do a snapshot of me with the photo. But I'm looking forward to 2021, some normalization maybe. Looking forward to Frightmare. I know that it was just a shock to everybody not to be able to do it this year, but you got to be kudos to you, Loyd, Charles, to look at the safety factor. I know that CDC said A, B, C maybe, but at the same time, you were more considerate about, I feel awful if I got somebody sick.
Yes.
I mean, if I get sick, that's fine, but actually, unfortunately, get somebody sick due to my negligence. So I got to say kudos to you to put your fans in the front before you put your bank account in the front. And that's something that I'm very proud to participate in, and I step back. So I'm excited about next year, getting to see the fans with you, and it'll be a good year for all of us. We just got to get through the rest of this year and be a little conscientious, because I know some people are getting a little itsy. I do see a lot of people not wearing their mask when I go places.
Yeah.
And wear my mask in and I wear my mask out. If it's a restaurant, I still wait till I order my food. I wear my mask and then I eat. I put my mask back on and go out the door because, like I said, I don't want to infect anybody. God forbid I would be asymptomatic or not know. So, we'll play it by ear and we'll get through the year. And then 2021, we're going to rock and roll.
Well, we're looking forward to it. We still have you scheduled with Alice Cooper to do the duo photo op in costume with Alice, and then you're doing a solo. Alice says he's still on board. He just wants to wait until January to make sure his schedule looks good, but he says it still looks good. He thinks it's gonna be a go. So we're excited that's gonna happen as well because we want you both of you to be there together.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and Alice, another, I can't speak highly enough of this man. He's from Arizona. He does a radio spot on Sunday nights. And when I do see him, just as pleasant as can be, his wife of decades, it's just as wonderful as can be. And, I guess, he's a great golfer, what everybody says. I mean, I've never played golf. It's not my thing. But he always talks about, hey, let's play golf. And I hear about him all the time being in the different events out there, charitable events. So there's a good human being right there.
He is.
Golf.
Yeah, he did our show. It's been a few years ago, but
About
he
12
was.
years.
It been 12 years?
Wow.
He is super impressive as a person because he's just, like you said, he's laid back. He's a nice guy. He's pleasant. He brought his wife with him to the last show that he did with us. And they actually rented a car and went to the local movie theater and saw a movie together.
Yeah.
He just, it's a big deal to him to, make sure he keeps the romance alive with his wife. And, he takes her out on dates still. And it's fantastic.
Yeah, I usually, I bring Ruby, my wife, multiple times, and we've had the pleasure where his wife, went, and the same thing. He's just as humble as pie. She is just as sweet as can be. She's a beautiful woman, and he is just so proud. He talks about this. He's got 30 plus years of sobriety, and it's a very important part of his life, because he went through some challenges. The interesting thing for me, just to throw a little sidewinder out there, is my very first concert that I went to in 1972 was Alice Cooper.
No way.
Welcome to My Nightmare. And for me to get to do that in 1986, that's why that fan that asked us about my awe moment, it's Alice Cooper, because my first concert at 16, and then to come back and work with the man in 86, and now to get to see the man 30 years later periodically. And it's not like I can say he's my best friend, but he knows who I am. Everybody knows who he is, of course. And it's very nice, and it's a humbling experience for me.
That's so awesome.
That is awesome.
That's really cool to hear. Well, you're an amazing person too, CJ. You've been so kind to us. When we did our benefit auction benefiting Irving Cares recently, you sent a big package of stuff for us to auction off, and I wanted to say face to face to you, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Though your items were some of the most popular items in the auction, and that money benefited Irving Cares, which is something that we really care a lot about.
And we did raise quite a bit for Irving Cares through that auction, so it worked very well.
We did, and it was just amazing. You saw the auction, and you just reached out to me, so that tells me you're a good guy too. So
yeah,
thank you.
No, and I appreciate that, because when I did see that, if there's anything I can do to contribute, I mean, it's just, again, I'm very appreciative for our fan base out there, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the fans. And if we can give something back like this, we got to do it. I'm very fortunate. You heard me say that earlier. I don't take any of what I've got or what I do and for granted whatsoever. Each day is a great day, and I'm appreciative for that, Loyd. I really appreciate talking to you. Charles, buddy, you looking good with that beard.
Trying to be like Loyd. Trying to be good.
I am nowhere near close as a manly beard as that, let me tell you. Did you talk about 13 Fanboy at all?
A little bit. Deborah Voorhees film, and I worked with her back in January of 2020 before everything went sideways. Did some great fight scenes in the end of it where I get to say Dee Wallace, and good fight scene. To be quite honest, going back to about me playing Jason again, the physicality, I did well in the fight scenes. I got to admit, I did some good stuff, but I'll be honest with you, I was bruised up the next day for about 3 weeks. And when I say bruised up, I'm talking like 3 inches wide, 6 inches long. I felt it. I couldn't even pull myself out of bed. So I might have to reevaluate my physicality if I was to do part 13, Friday the 13th, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for coming on today. It's a pleasure for me. I know it is for Charles as well. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. And we will see you in May. We are going to keep looking forward to that date.
Yes, we are.
We're going to make it happen.
All right. I appreciate the invite. Maybe we can do it again in early 2021, and we'll get this motivated and have some fun times next year, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a good one, sir. I'm going to try to figure out how to take you off the screen. I'm not real sure how to do that yet.
If I push the button and I'm gone, guys, love you. Be safe, and I'll see you in 2021, okay?
All right, CJ. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have a good one.
Man, I love talking to CJ.
He's the best. We may have to just... Yeah, we're going to have a double thing
Heck yeah.
here. Look at us.
The crier.
It's kind of crazy. I don't think I have a single view.
Hi.
We're just not used to doing it both at the same time. So.
This is me, Charles Does with Lord Crier.
So tonight, Charles, we got
Ali Tapa.
Ollie Tapa. Ollie, I don't know if you're watching right now, but
Ali's one of our viewers, and every Saturday night we do a Twitch Prime watch party. And Ali has chosen, I don't even think we made an announcement of the movie. We're so far behind.
yeah.
Ali chose Night of the Demons, guys. And I love Night of the
Demons.
What a great movie, Night of the Demons. We're going to watch that tonight.
Night of the Demons, hosted by Charles and I, plus our special guest, Ollie Tapa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be really cool.
That is going to be really cool. I'm super excited.
And then what else do we got going on, Charles? Wednesday we got something happening, right?
1978, the year in horror.
1978.
And we're almost done with the 70s, guys, and then we're going to move on to the 90s. So,
oh yeah.
You guys get ready. I'm going to tell you guys, though, 78 and 79 are some good years.
Yes, they
There's
are.
a lot of crap that came out, so get ready for a 7-hour show, because we're not stopping.
Well, there you go. 1978 is next.
Yep.
And then Saturday we're taking a hiatus, right?
Next Saturday we won't be on because I'm not going to be here, guys. Sorry. I told Loyd he can go on without me, but he said he can't survive without Charles next to him.
I can't do it without Charles.
So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll come on Sunday. If maybe we can get a vendor or something, we'll come back up on Sunday. We'll work something out, though.
We'll do something. But this Sunday, tomorrow...
Oh, tomorrow we're going to do something.
Tomorrow we are definitely doing something. We've got an extra bonus guest interview.
Yeah.
Thanks to Dominic Mancini with Full Empire Promotions. We're bringing on Stephen Mock.
Oh, Stephen.
Stephen Mock. And everybody knows Stephen Mock from a bunch of stuff.
You guys know, I'm sure a lot of you guys know Stephen from the Monster Squad.
Mm-hmm. But
I think he was credited as his dad, wasn't he? In the Monster Squad.
Sean's dad.
Yeah, Sean's dad in the Monster Squad, he's Dale though, and he is so great in that movie. He plays the perfect dad in that. But not even that, he's been in Graveyard Shift, all kinds of stuff. I mean, his list is like,
yeah, Graveyard Shift, Trancers. I'm just looking at his list of stuff.
I think he was on the Sliders TV show for a bit.
Nightwing,
Galaxia, which is a great movie, and The Mountain Men.
Yeah, Killjoy. That was a TV movie, though.
So, I know it's last minute, guys, but we just kind of got that figured out today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's going to be at 1 p.m. Central Time tomorrow.
That's
so
correct.
That'll be a nice bonus episode for everybody who can join us. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you guys. So, if you've got some free time and you can bear to stare at Loyd and I again for like another hour, we'll be back on.
That's right. We're going to be back on tomorrow. What else you got, Charles?
Man,
anything?
I don't think I got anything else.
I don't think I do either.
What else?
There's a lot going on right now. There's stuff that I want to talk about, but I cannot talk about it yet. I got some pretty exciting news coming up. So,
Loyd's having my baby.
I'm having Charles's baby.
His name's going to be Little Paquito. That's what we're calling
Paquito?
Paquito.
Or
Paquito Dose Crier.
Charlotte?
It's Paquito. Charles. Paquito Dose Crier. It's our little baby.
Yes. So, everybody tune in tonight for our watch party at 7 p.m. Central.
Yeah.
And that's Night of the Demons with Ali Tapa. And then tomorrow, Stephen Mott at 1 p.m. Central Time. That's going to be a fun interview. And then we've got Wednesday coming up.
Wednesday Year in Horror 78, guys.
And then we'll see what happens beyond that.
Then me and Loyd and I are going to retire. That's it.
Then we're done.
It's the last show ever, guys.
I'm moving to Mexico.
Loyd's moving to Mexico. I'm moving to South America, and I'm going to open up a banana farm. And that's it, guys. It's over.
A banana farm.
A banana farm. I'm going to make Frightmare HQ brand bananas. Coming soon to a grocery store near you.
Chiquita Frightmare bananas.
Chiquita Frightmare bananas. It's going to have my face on it because Loyd doesn't want to open the banana farm with me.
All right. Well, I think that's it, Charles.
All right, fine.
I think we should go. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. There's a bunch of you on. What was that?
That was. I get excited and I just like pop when I'm near you.
Wow. You just tooted. Okay. Well, whoa. Okay. I think it's time to go because Charles and I obviously need some private time. Right, Charles?
I want to make you feel good.
Oh, my God. Okay, that's it. Peace
right.
out, everybody. We'll see y'all tonight.
I'm rolling. I'm out.
Have a good night. We'll see you.
All right.